Emily, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for joining me, and I just really appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch this video. I hope it'll be informative and helpful and provide you with a lot of value. So let's go ahead and get started. Today's video is going to be all about data. So it's geared towards Poshmark resellers. If you aren't familiar with the Poshmark app, it's a way to sell men's, women's, and children's clothing, shoes, and accessories, as well as selling home goods and a couple other items as well. It's just an app on your phone. It's super easy to use, and if you want to download the app after watching this video, I will leave a little bit picture box on the screen, but my discount code is just EmilyHMunn, and you get $10 off your first purchase, which goes quite a long way on the app compared to traditional retail sites. So with that explanation out of the way, I want to talk about why I want to make this video and why I feel like I'm qualified to make it, and then we'll do a screen share of my current Poshmark inventory spreadsheet, and then we'll just wrap up and you can leave any questions below. So I work full-time in the information technology space. That's my full-time job, and sometimes I work with large data sets. And if there's anything I've learned in about 7 years that I've worked in the information technology space, it is that data is powerful, and there is a lot of metrics that you can gain if you have the data behind it. And I've tried to adopt that philosophy and think about data in Poshmark as well, because my Poshmark business, well, for the first couple of years, I didn't use a lot of data to make decisions. And when I changed that, it helped me better decide where to spend my time, where to spend my money in my Poshmark business. So today I'm gonna go over the Poshmark inventory spreadsheet and sales spreadsheet that I personally use in order to track the Poshmark inventory I have and what's selling for what price, etc. And like I said earlier, I'm gonna do a screen share of that so you can see exactly the data I'm capturing. Before I start the screen sharing though, I do wanna get a few disclaimers out of the way. First one is that the Poshmark app does provide you with a Poshmark My Sales report and a Poshmark My Inventory report with a lot of the data that I'm going to show you today that I'm capturing. So if you watch this video and you go, you know what, Emily, this isn't for me, I just want to use the data that Poshmark provides me to do all my inventory and sales tracking, that is totally fine. And I respect that as well, because everybody is different and everybody wants to do it a different way. But for me personally, I like to have a sense of ownership and control over my data. I want to put my metrics into my spreadsheet and know that they are correct and not rely on Poshmark to give that to me. So that's why I'm showing this to you today. And it's also why I'm not selling this spreadsheet on any sort of a website. I know people do that, and I think that's wonderful. If you want to buy a spreadsheet that subtracts inventory that somebody sells or even gives to you for free, go for it. I think that's awesome. But for me, I want to teach you how to use a Poshmark inventory and sales spreadsheet so you can apply it in what way it sees fit for you, and you can take ownership over that spreadsheet. That's my goal with this video. Whatever method you choose, I think to be successful with using your Poshmark data to make the right decisions, you have to have a sense of ownership over this, and that's my goal in teaching you today, so you can feel confident in going ahead and using some sort of Poshmark inventory spreadsheet. Finally, I want to say that this will be the first in a series I'm going to do about utilizing Poshmark data. So if this doesn't have all the information you're needing, leave suggestions down below. This is only the first of a few different video ideas that I already have. I'll be showing you today how to capture data in the Poshmark inventory spreadsheet I use. And then the next time I film, I will be showing you how to run metrics on this Poshmark data that you capture, because you not only want to be able to capture the data, but you want to be able to run metrics to make decisions off of. So stay tuned for that in another video. Make sure you're subscribed and click the bell notification so you know when that next video comes out. But don't worry, this is just the first of many. So now we'll get started with the screen sharing portion of this video. All of the data I'm going to show you is the fields I capture, but I have randomized it a bit, so I'm not actually sharing my cost of goods with you or the stores I shop at. So those aren't real data points, but overall you'll get the general idea when you see the spreadsheet. This is my Poshmark inventory spreadsheet. And columns A through column N on the spreadsheet are fields that I use when I initially list an item on Poshmark. Columns O through column Z are fields that I fill out when I sell an item on Poshmark. So this is kind of it serves dual purposes. So it's both an inventory spreadsheet and a sales spreadsheet, and I use it for both items so I can run metrics all together of the data. But I'm going to go through each of the columns here, and some I'll explain more than others just to give you an idea of what I personally use. So column A is the unique identifier for each listing that I list on Poshmark. This field is one that I put on the Poshmark listing itself so I can find the item later down the line, and so I know where to put the sales data as well. So you could use just whatever kind of numbering system you wanted to use, but this is just my unique identifier for each item. Column B is the date that the item was listed on Poshmark. And when I asked you all over my Instagram, which is at Emily H. Munn, what fields that you capture for your inventory and sales reports for Poshmark, this was a big one. So I would recommend one of the fields you for sure take out of this is putting the date that you listed an item in Poshmark on your inventory spreadsheet that you're going to create. There's a lot of metrics that can be run off of this, which I'll go over in the next video. And then column C through column H are fields that are taken directly from my Poshmark listing. Column C is the item description, which is essentially the Poshmark title. So in the Poshmark app, I put in for this item that it was a pair of Rothy's black and white cap toe flat shoe, and that would also go in, so it would go in the Poshmark title and it would go in the item description for my inventory spreadsheet as well. That matches, it just gives me a little bit more of an idea of what an item is. Column D is the gender of an item, column E is the category, column F is the size, column G is the brand, and column H is if it's new with tags or not. So you may or may not want to use these different fields. I just take these directly from their corresponding categories on Poshmark and put them in this spreadsheet. And then column I guess this is a little bit interesting and kind of shows you how my spreadsheet has evolved over the years. But I was trying to figure out if it really did make a difference with sales, if I modeled items or not. So I just stated with each item if I modeled it or if I didn't, and I did some metrics based on that. After a few months of doing this, I don't think it makes a huge difference. So I don't think I'm still going to be modeling all my items on Poshmark, but it's just a metric I added in so I can make a decision on if I wanted to spend the time to model all the items that I listed on Poshmark or not. Column J is another really, really important field to take a look at. So it is the cost of my goods. So what I'm paying for items, and I try to be as exact as possible with this number. So you can see if I go down to the second row, again, this is all randomized data, but you can see I even put it down to the cent on how much I spend on each individual item that I'm listing on Poshmark. For me, this drives better decisions in my business. It makes it a little bit more clear what I should spend my time on, what I should spend my money on, and I think it's really, really important. I can't emphasize that enough. Column L is where I purchase the inventory, which again is a really, really important metric to decide where to spend my time sourcing, because sourcing takes a ton of time and I want to make sure I'm going to the stores that are the most profitable. And so ever since I captured that, it's helped me make better decisions on where to go to buy inventory, which is really, really important. In column N, this is the last field that I fill out when I initially list an item on Poshmark, is what the original listed price was on the Poshmark app. And this can be really helpful down the line because you can compare how much did I list an item for and what did it actually sell for, and maybe make some better pricing decisions in the future, more realistic pricing decisions by going ahead and putting the list price in this spreadsheet. So those fields, column A through column N, are really the fields that I capture on the initial entry. So when I initially list the item on Poshmark, I fill those out right away. And then I wanted to include the fields that I fill out when an item sells as well. So this is not only just an inventory spreadsheet, but it's my sales spreadsheet as well. And those are column O through column Z, like I said. And these are fields that I fill out when an item sells on the Poshmark app. And I take it directly from the Poshmark app on a particular item. So I'm going to go ahead and use this pair of Rothy's shoes as an example. When they sold, I filled out these fields. The first one is the price that an item sold for. And in this case, these are the actual sales numbers because it's public knowledge. If you go to my Poshmark closet, you can see it. But in this case, the item sold for $75. So I put that in there. And that essentially is what drives what my overall profit was. So that is a number I look at every day. I want to make sure my business is profitable. So I can't emphasize enough, put in your numbers because you want to be able to see what your profit is and make decisions off of that. I also put in the date the item sold in column P, which drives a lot of decisions around how many days I had an item, if it's too old of an item, if I've had it in inventory for too long and need to drop the price. There's a lot of information that can be gathered from that. So if you take the date an item sold versus the date it was listed, you can run metrics off that, and I'll talk about that a little when I do my metrics video, but it's a really important field. And then these two fields, these are calculated fields, the days on market and the net profit. I'll go over those more later. Just know that those are driven by some of the data points that I've already shared. And then I put the buyer of the Poshmark item in my spreadsheet just so I can track if I have repeat buyers or not. In this case, I just randomized the data because I didn't want to share usernames in this video, but I do put the buyer and then I put the state they're in as well. The reason for that, and this is going to vary from state to state, but for Kansas to Kansas transactions, so if somebody buys something from me that lives in Kansas, I have to pay a tax on that. So if this state is Kansas, I put this in here as well as the city of Kansas that I'm shipping to, and that's just for tax purposes. I don't know if you necessarily need to capture state. It's going to vary on where you live, but it's a really, really important field for me, and so I go ahead and capture it in this spreadsheet. And that's pretty much it for what I capture as far as data points for both my inventory and my sales on Poshmark. And it is a lot of work, but if you keep up with it and you make sure to enter into your spreadsheet every time you list an item and enter into your spreadsheet every time you sell an item, it's very, very manageable to keep up with. And it provides me a ton of value down the line when I do my metrics. So like I said many times before, in my metrics video, I will go over some of the different ideas that I have for things you can capture with this data, but it's 100% worth it to me for metrics, as well as it's worth it to me for tax purposes so that I can give my accountant everything that he needs to run taxes for my business and tell me what I need to pay, because I have all this data very organized in a consolidated format that works for me. So hopefully this spreadsheet was helpful and it gives you some ideas on what to use for your personal Poshmark business. That's it for this video. I hope it was helpful to you, and I hope you learned something as well. I just thought that I could use my knowledge in the information technology space to provide value for you. If you have any questions at all, I'm sure there will be questions. Just leave them down below and I will answer them. Or if you don't feel comfortable posting them publicly, you can always DM me on my Instagram, which is @EmilyHMunn. And additionally, if you have any other suggestions for this Poshmark data series, please leave those down below because I always do read the comments and it'll give me ideas. And like always, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. That way I know that you like these types of videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye.